that is what was missing from all of our partners up until Paper Jacket, was trusting that these guys and these gals would be able to curate an experience that would leave the client feeling confident and inspired, and not necessarily just confused and disappointed.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to part 2 of our discussion with Joshua Hayes, the CEO of both New York Ave and Paper Jacket. If you missed the first part of this conversation, I highly recommend listening to or watching that episode, or just continue right along. It's your prerogative. But in this episode, we continue the discussion of Joshua acquiring Paper Jacket and why he chose our team to do so. Enjoy. Well, I'm going to ask you a question that I think you're going to want to have a drink with.
Yeah, we haven't poured the drink.
Yeah, let's pour the drink now as we get into this subject.
By the way, for viewers, I introduced Jeremy to not only video, but to peanut butter whiskey. So if you have a sip of peanut butter whiskey, oh, no, maybe not. There's a guy behind the camera. His name is Nolan. Great looking guy. He says he introduced Jeremy to peanut butter whiskey. Jeremy, as your boss, I just want you to
really
clarify.
Hard, actually, to clarify, because it's true. It was like the same exact time. It was the same exact time. I think Nolan told me about this peanut butter whiskey.
Was it Screwball? It was Screwball. Yeah. Okay.
I don't remember if he. I think it was Screwball that he actually shared. But he was telling me about a peanut butter whiskey. I'm like, that sounds good. But I feel like it was either you had told me about it or something. I think you had said, like, you got to come to my office to try the peanut butter whiskey.
Yeah.
So I think you and
Nolan just
told me about it, but you were the first one to give me a taste of it. So
okay. Well, we're gonna give this one
really
to Nolan.
hard.
He can have this one. He's worked so hard. That's what we're gonna. Happy end of year, Nolan. You get that one. Cheers
to Nolan.
And here's the thing.
It's 10:39 a.m. by the way.
It is. Coffee and
no, actually.
whiskey.
Okay. So I don't have this often while I'm sitting in my office and stuff like that, because I'm
That's
only
a lie.
working and trying. Look how full this thing is. You should look at the Buffalo Trace.
Bone dry.
But when I do have it, and this was told me by a client of ours, I'll get like a mocha latte and put a little bit of peanut butter whiskey in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, that's what I love about peanut butter whiskey, is that if you blend coffee or if you blend chocolate like Godiva, it's either like a really, really great chocolate drink or it's like a Reese's cup. So it could be like a breakfast beverage if you're really having a day, or it can be an evening nightcap.
Because you're having the caffeine with it, you just put in a little bit, you know.
Now, I do have to give credit where credit is due. My designer, Taylor, introduced me to peanut butter whiskey. And he did it when we were having, at New York Ave, we were having a team meeting, and they were presenting ideas for a coat rack that we needed to have at the office. And they were really trying to get me to buy a coat rack. We don't have to get into that. But I was like, look, make a PowerPoint presentation to communicate your case. Sell me on this coat rack. Bring some, I don't know, bourbon, whiskey, whatever you want to bring. And he's like, I got peanut butter whiskey. I'm like, ugh, that sounds terrible. He's like, just trust me. And Taylor is a heavy pour. So he started the meeting by pouring glasses like to the tippy top. And we went through this hour-long presentation of coat racks. Which, by the way, was a spectacular presentation that ended in him throwing confetti out unexpectedly. It was just, you can't top that presentation. But by the end of the presentation, we had drank most of the peanut butter whiskey. It was a great day, but I was surprised at the first sip, like most people coming on the podcast are as well, or anyone that tries it.
Yeah, most people are like,
yeah, peanut butter and whiskey. Yeah. I don't know about that. But
so for a whiskey purist, they're like, what? And then for someone's like, I don't drink whiskey, they're like, hey.
Yeah,
so
exactly. But they all love it, or they like it, or they can find a place for it. Yeah.
Now, on that note, you didn't get the coat rack, did you?
No, I did.
Oh, you did get the coat rack. Oh, he did
rack.
sell you on it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Sorry, Taylor. I just told this is for Taylor right now. Taylor, I just said, hey, Josh, I want to buy a coat rack. He's like, okay.
Damn it. We'll edit that out, post. That's true.
You're still trying to butter me up because
That's true.
you just bought the company.
And I did need it. You needed a co-rec. I was going to give you a co-rec.
So the question I was going to ask you, what hardships did you face in being a marketing agency now hiring out video? Because you're not just doing it for you now. You're doing it as like, I got to hire this company and trust this company to get the right content for us, for our client.
Yep.
So you're the middleman in this situation. So it almost makes it worse in many ways.
Yep.
Because you're not the one doing video, they are. And so you're having to trust them a lot on multiple things. What were the good things you found and the hardships you found? And I'm guessing you went to a company, you went to freelancers, you went to multiple things, right?
Well, I always wanted to hire a company. Companies carry better insurance and they're typically more accountable than just kind of a freelancer. Not that they aren't good, but I wanted kind of a broader spectrum of talent and capability, but I also wanted the security of knowing that if I hired a company, I could hold that company accountable. So in terms of hardship, I would say that one of the challenges that I had was figuring out how New York Ave wanted to do video through a partner, because 99.9% of what we did prior to finding or incorporating video into our plans, we did the work. And that was by design, and that's still by design because we can control the quality of product, but more importantly, we can control the experience the client has. And this was a tricky one. This is that hardship part. Because unlike some of the other things that we did ourselves behind the scenes, video is right there in your face. We are, a crew is showing up and they're bringing equipment and they are an extension of our brand. And whatever they put out is going to have an emotional component, and that is a complex, unpredictable thing. So the hardships were trying to balance expectations with what we're trying to accomplish with representing our company well. And we found some really good partners over the years that were good examples of our brand that came in and did good work. And we were able to learn a lot in the process. I was able to sponge every bit of it up and figure out what was and wasn't working, what could be better, what could be done differently, how we can be more efficient. A lot of the nuances of what it meant to bring media production into marketing and to do it well. Again, the difference though between the way New York Ave does it and the way a lot of other agencies in our spaces do it is the agencies, at least in our category, will do the same thing that we did. They'll hire freelancers or they'll hire studios, and they'll just say, "Here's the call sheet. Here's the scope of work. Go." And it's disruptive for the client. It's disorienting is a better word for the client. And there's a lot of the niceties and the white glove component of servicing the client with video that was missing. And it frustrated a lot of clients. So we chose to say, okay, this is going to cost us more, but we are going to always be representative of our brand with whoever we were hiring to come in and do media for us on site with the client. We're going to help the client. We're going to help kind of curate this experience to make them feel really good and confident about it all. Because that is what was missing from all of our partners up until Paper Jacket, was trusting that these guys and these gals would be able to curate an experience that would leave the client feeling confident and inspired and not necessarily just confused and disappointed.
What do you think makes the client feel confused and disappointed, like from a crew that doesn't provide that? So, like, what do you think is the difference maker in providing that white glove service?
It's the
to the
small
client?
stuff, man. It's the small stuff. So it's just showing up on time, being dressed appropriately, coming equipped, looking like, at the very least, pretend, but look like you know what you're doing, and just kind of being conversational, not standoffish, helping the client feel like, hey, I'm right here in the trenches with you. Like we're gonna get this done and we're gonna love it and it's gonna be awesome. Versus just showing up, turning on the camera, and it could be a spectacular product, right? And usually it was a spectacular product.
Because
The experience was
because
bad.
directors and these guys, they're going for that product. They're going. And what?
They're fully focused on that,
Yeah,
rightfully so.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Rightfully so, but there was a missing component, and that's a hard thing to try to find or shop out or build is that personalization. So I knew that going into video for New York Ave, and so New York Ave made the investment of always having one of our core team, on site and to help. And this is where I think I started to learn and appreciate the value of either a really, really good director or a really, really good investment into a producer. Because we were kind of filling that gap unknowingly for the studios that we would hire, the freelancers we would hire. And really, it's just about helping like insulate the production crew so they can be there to get their job done exceptionally well and insulate them from the client, right? Because the client is not necessarily the person you want directing. No, it's definitely not the person you want directing the shoot. So we're able to insulate the crew so that they could focus in and do their job well, while also kind of guiding the client through to a comfort level that would allow them to open up and communicate their stories or their messaging really well. So we were kind of unbeknownst to us acting as like a producer director ish in these early engagements from 2018 to all the way up till 2022 with the partners that we were using.
So, what were the hardships that began truly, like you had a smooth thing going,
Yep.
and you had a system going.
Hmm.
What ultimately broke that system to make you say, I need to either do this in house or buy a media company?
Yeah. So what we found is that it's double-edged sword, but by curating this experience for both the production crew and the client, um, we were making it a cushy gig for our production crews, a very cushy gig. And I think that there was a comfort level there that was established that where when you're working with certain types of people, the professionalism, the showing up to get the job done right, and the coming equipped as if this were the first gig every single time, that energy, that's what quickly waned with the partners that we were using, and that ultimately impacts the quality of the finished product. But more importantly, it also affects the experience. Even if I'm insulating, it still affects the experience the clients have. And when that starts to unravel, what you end up with is beyond the experience and the quality of product is you start you start losing delivery time frames, losing control over that. You start losing control over some of the details that were once so important but now aren't, because there's a comfort level that's been established, a casual nature of doing the work. And that ultimately is where I had to finally say I can't do this anymore, because beyond just the quality of experience for the clients, for us and our team, what we were struggling with is now we're having to basically do everything except for turn on the camera and do the editing. And that is a huge part of it, right?
Mm-hmm,
That is a
mm-hmm,
very big part. It's
mm-hmm.
more than half. But if we're going to do everything else, then what am I paying a very good sum to these other crews to do? I need to lean in on them, not vice versa. And that's what was happening.
Because I think there is a broken idea and concept that for me to do a video, all I need to do is have someone with someone who a good camera knows how to use the camera, get a good shot and then do the editing. That's all I need.
Mm-hmm.
And so ultimately they are missing the producer director.
Correct. And that's where I think things kind of, I didn't know, right? But that's where things started to kind of drift apart in our process. Was we were acting as producer director, and I don't think we knew that that's what we were doing. And the crews that we hired loved it because it made their job better and easier and ultimately more effective. And to be fair to them, I didn't ask them to do that. I didn't know to ask them to do that. We just wanted to control the quality of product in the process. But it did create that comfort level that unfortunately just kind of unraveled. And I remember pulling the plug on the crews we were using on this huge project we were working on for a very big client. And we were way past due, and we're having to make excuses, and I'm having to apologize, and I'm the type of person that will always do right by the client. So now I'm having to look at potentially spending thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to make this thing right. because no matter what, I'm not going to go after the client for that. That's not their fault. I'm going to make it right by coming out of my own pocket and going after my vendors. And so it was in that moment that I realized, okay, the experience is different now, not only from us and my team, but also for the client. And now things are starting to get toxic and it's starting to reflect poorly on us. And I can't have this. It's not sustainable. Let's say 20% of the work we were doing was video. Well, the other 80% of the work that we were doing is now being viewed and received in a negative way. So we could be doing 80% of the work spectacularly, but this big impactful thing that we were doing 20% of the time was was weighing so negatively on the full sum that I realized that if it continued to unravel, we would ultimately fail. We would lose clients. It would be a mess, and I would be out of pocket. And that's ugh, it's messy.
I mean, so what? Before we go to the next part of the story, I'm curious as someone who owns a marketing agency and trying to fulfill the need of content, creative content, stuff like that. Like, you're able to do it with graphic design. You're able to do it with stock photo stuff. Like, what is hard for a marketing agency to just start doing video themselves?
Yep.
Like, I mean, at the end of the day, if you guys were doing the producing and directing, if you guys just got a camera operator, if you guys just got one camera guy and editor in house, isn't that all a marketing agency needs? Like, why or why not?
So the question is that all a marketing agency needs? The answer is completely relative to what the marketing agency wants to be known for, what they want to be proud of. So if we weren't so obsessive over the quality of work that we do, because again, we started as a brand building agency, right? So the quality of work and the process are just on the highest platform for us. If we didn't really value that as highly as we did, then the answer is yeah, sure. We're already doing the producing and directing, quote unquote. Let's just get a good camera, a good microphone, a nice tripod, and let's just go shoot. And 90% of people or agencies do that. And a lot of clients are okay with that. And I'm not necessarily saying that that's not a good product, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying that it's not the product that I want it to sell, and it's not the product or experience that I feel like our clients truly benefit from.
It's also really hard to scale doing that.
It's impossibly hard to scale. And again, it's all about the experience. So if you're showing up and you're, one man band, you've got, whatever camera and whatever tripod you got, and it's not lit correctly, or this setting is not lit correctly, or the person isn't mic'd well, or you've got this weird lapel that's got this black wire hanging out off of a white shirt. They always wear white or patterned shirts. It's not what it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And I fully believe and have always believed, but especially in this last decade, that the way you put your brand out there is completely and totally the representation of what people should expect when they come to do business with you. And so if you're putting yourself out there and it looks or feels cheap, if you will, then I'm kind of losing confidence. At
Mm-hmm.
least me. I'm losing confidence. I don't believe that you're going to give me the experience that I want to have.
Sure.
So,
So then you started working with Paper Jacket, which is really just another vendor, at the end of the day. But what was the difference maker for you and
yep.
and us?
Yep. So, we go way back, and Johnny, who's our creative director at New York Ave, we go way, way back. And Johnny came out of Paper Jacket 1.0, and we hired him on as our creative director. And he was really fair in the fact that he didn't want to show favoritism to any one thing. He wanted to come in very neutral, right? And we had a good thing going with the vendors that we had, and Paper Jacket was in Tampa, not in North Volusia County, and so it didn't really at the time seem like something we wanted to do, contract with Paper Jacket. But as things slowly started to, actually no, quickly started to unravel, we found ourselves needing to find an entirely new batch of partners, and very quickly. So we found a company that was local that did great work, and we occasionally use them for small things here or there. And they're still a really great partner, but we are director producer in that way. And we started to bring Paper Jacket into the fold. You were quick to say, I'll be there. I'll make sure I show up. I hear you. I'm with you. Let's go. And just kind of bring an energy to what we were trying to accomplish. But for me, the deciding point, and this is our crew, was seeing the consistency, right? So in the 6 months that we worked together before you and I had that conversation about acquiring Paper Jacket, there was a consistency brought to every gig, right? So every gig you guys showed up on time or ahead of time. Every gig you showed up prepared, or at least you looked prepared. You every gig you were well equipped to get the job done well, and you cared about the small details. You guys looked at the small things like, well, how do we light this better? How do we get you, what kind of stool do we want to set you on? What kind of questions do we want to ask? So while we were still kind of acting as a producer director, we very quickly realized that these guys are better at that than us. And so really what happened in that 6 month period is that I gained a confidence in knowing that this crew is going to show up and look good and make us proud, right? And make the client feel confident. And that's all the stuff that I was going for anyways. But I also realized that if someone can do the director producer and does it for a living, that role, then why do we get involved, right? So we needed to lean in on Paper Jacket to execute the full vision of the project better than we ever could with the blend of what we were doing and what our partners were doing. And it became increasingly possible to do that because my confidence level was going up with every gig that we did, and we did a lot of gigs that in that 6 month period, where I was really feeling like, okay, wow, first of all, I wish I would have done this sooner. Second of all, this is great. And I think maybe timing is everything, right? You guys were in a really good place and things were just really starting to jive, and the same thing with us. And so the timing was spectacular, but the consistency and the quality and the attention to detail and the just showing up, for the love of God, it's why is that so hard? But just showing up on time was everything that I could have wanted. And because media production in the 2 years prior had grown to represent a huge chunk of New York Ave's output, it became increasingly necessary to not only find a really good partner, but to figure out how to shore all of that up and make sure it plugs in well. And so this leads us to what you were asking about, in that in 2.5 years, we went from doing 0% of our revenue in video to doing 20, 22%. And then in the following year, which was 2023, it was like 30% of our revenue. So a huge chunk of our business was now completely and totally dependent on partners. And it was at that point where, things were unraveling with our other partner. We were starting things with you and things were feeling good, that I realized I have to make sure that I can control these variables. I have to make sure that I can continue to deliver really good product. But more importantly, I see there's an opportunity here to have this product stand alone and to be strong in and of itself. And that's when we eventually
Well,
talked.
that's also because as a marketing agency, this is the kind of thing marketing agencies need. That's why you didn't fold us into New York Ave. You kept us as we stayed Paper Jacket. We're our own company.
Yep.
And to kind of bring it back full circle with, um, you needed a consistent video company
Yep.
to match your consistent marketing, because while it's important that there is creativity in marketing and video and all these different things, creativity is what ultimately grabs the engagement of people, grabs the attention of people
Yep.
for you then to sell a product, sell
Yep.
a service, whichever.
And we were seeing engagement drop, by the way, on the stuff that we were already doing. It wasn't until we started experimenting with video and posting video and using video, not only just on social media, but in our SEO strategies, which a lot of agencies undervalue
Sure.
video for SEO. But
Yeah.
we started to see that the impressions and the engagement drop everywhere. And then when we started using video, we started to see it come back. And so to me, that was the writing on the wall.
And that's why I love using the word marketing architect, because an architect is extremely creative, but they have to work within
Yep.
the practical boundaries, right?
Yep.
They can't just be like, I want a floating building that above this area. It just would be such a cool thing. Yeah. how are you going to make it float, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
that to me, that's what
And you don't have the
separates.
budget to do
Right, right.
that.
That's what a creative is someone with no boundaries.
Hmm.
So a marketing architect, a good company to use for a business is someone who you can say work within the boundaries of
Yep.
this budget, work within the boundaries of practicalities of like, obviously this video could be really cool, but does it grab the right attention of our target audience to then deliver this message? Like,
Hmm.
and sometimes it's doing something a creative doesn't love doing.
Yep.
Like, for example, whenever you tell me, "Hey, we're gonna do this more TikTok style," I'm like, I hate you. Like,
Yeah, you cringe. I
yeah, I
also hate
bring in this.
myself.
Yeah, yeah. Like, we're like cinema people, but we understand that
Yep.
if this is what grabs attention better right now under this platform,
Hmm.
that's what we need to make. So now, using our creative talent, we're going to know how to do that here.
Well, and it's three-dimensional too. So this is where I think companies like New York Ave and Paper Jacket have a huge advantage in that architects think about all of the variables. They think about every single aspect of everything that's going on. And marketing is exceedingly complex. And then marketing also has its boundaries, right? So there's only so much that technology can do, and there's only so much that the budget can do. And that's a big one, right? So architect is a good word because there are so many variables. But when you think about the style of content that you put out, in this case, a TikTok style video. Um, it's not representative of the whole. It is to grab attention, but you have to follow through on the other end. So after you have broken through the ice and grabbed someone attention with a TikTok style video, for example, then their mindset, their emotions shift into something entirely different. They shift into decision making mode. And when they're in decision making mode, they're going to start thinking about, how do I trust this company? And that's where the cinema stuff, the truly meaningful story driven content comes through. And that's Paper Jacket's wheelhouse. Not that they can't or we don't do TikTok stuff. It's just, if you look at that as the sum, then yeah, it's, ugh, I don't want to do it. But if you see it as the icebreaker that leads into the other stuff, and that stuff is what gets people to make their decisions, boom.
So to help us close up here, why is it important for a business when looking for a marketing agency to look for someone who's obviously has the creative aspects,
Mm-hmm.
but also the business mindsets to help with the consistency? Exactly what you said. Consistency is truly what grows anything.
Yep.
From person to health to skills to businesses, it all comes down to consistency. And why or how does New York Ave position themselves to give that to a business?
Yeah, so I would say consistency is our greatest strength at New York Ave and at Paper Jacket, truthfully. But it's so important because there's so many moving pieces, and the world of marketing and building your brand and your business with marketing is changing literally hourly. It is changing so quickly that it's exhausting to keep up with. And as a business owner, you have other stuff going on. And you are arguably the best at what you do. Whatever it is that you do, you are the best at it. And so, why are you wasting time trying to manage multiple vendors or trying to figure out all of the nuances of how to set up a camera? Or why are you even trying to waste your time coming up with the concepts that need to be executed to be able to market and grow your business? That is such a terrible waste of your time and energy. And as a business owner, and what I've learned from other business owners, the smartest, most effective business owners are the ones that hire people in their circle that are experts at what they do and better at what they do than what I can do. So I have my attorneys, I have my CPAs, I have my video people, I have my designer, I have people that are all better at what they do, their craft, than I am. And I have that because I do what I do great. And having these people in my circle doing what they do great allows me to focus in on growing the business. So consistency is key because it's dependable, and it's a complex world that needs that level of consistency to be able to execute something that will actually and truly make a difference. And that's where New York Ave comes in, and that's where Paper Jacket comes in well
And it's
as
sort of
well.
the same message to any marketing agency who currently is does not have in-house media, or maybe it has it and they're not able to grow, or something
Mhm.
like that. Why Paper Jacket can be a good fit for them.
Yeah, Paper Jacket has productized a lot of stuff, and that's part of what we were doing in that 6 months when we started working together. Is how do we build products for an agency, because that's what we needed. and how can these products also work for retail direct to the client through Paper Jacket. And we built a number or a suite of products that are spectacular for agencies to plug and play. And just because I own a marketing agency and own Paper Jacket doesn't mean Paper Jacket can't work with an agency. In
Mhm.
fact, Paper Jacket can help teach agencies how to scale their businesses with video using us as kind of a plug and play crew that you can depend on for that level of consistency.
One last thing I want to bring up. It's something you kind of showed me this year. You guys didn't really have a lot of videos for New York Ave,
No,
right? I like to make this joke a lot of times. Like the guy who mows lawns probably has the worst lawn
always.
because he gets home after dark, right?
Yep, always.
So, when you brought us on, one of the first projects you want to do is like, let's get some brand films together and stuff like that. I remember you telling me, or I don't know if you said it verbatim or you kind of like hinted around it. I'm like, I know what he's trying to say. 2024 was somewhat of a hard year.
Oh, that's
Almost every
putting it
election year
lightly.
is in certain ways. Yeah. And you were feeling a little bit like just
Broken. Yes.
burned out, broken,
Yeah.
whichever, like kind of like, I'm trying to figure this out. Right.
Hmm.
And what we did was worked on a brand film, worked on a promo video. And the first time you saw it, you were like, this is why I'm doing this.
Yep. Yeah, that was a moment that I'll never forget. 2024 has been awful to all of us. Truthfully, if you're a business owner watching, you know what I'm talking about. But it was a rough year, and it's been a rough couple years. But I was losing my why, losing sight of my why, and I was starting to make decisions rooted in just a sense of like, I don't know where things are going. I'm a little bit concerned. I started to act like the business owners that I was coaching and not following my own advice, right? And so one of the first projects we did with Paper Jacket was a brand film project, like you said. And the brand film was the emphasis was on the mission and the drive and the vision and the story, the why, all of that. And I didn't really know what to expect from it other than this is something that I think is really important that I think businesses, our clients should hear about us. This is what they will buy into when they hire New York Ave. Um, I was not expecting to like a fire was lit inside of me in terms of like watching this and feeling like that's why I do what I do. I literally had tears roll down my face, and I remember texting you. I was like, that was like the inspiration that I needed to hear from myself, and to hear from my team to be able to fuel rounding out this pile of garbage year of 2024 and be inspired to go into the next year. And that kind of completely changed the game and how I pitched video, in that it doesn't necessarily have to be connected to some kind of arbitrary ROI. The ROI is instilling a sense of confidence and empowerment in a business owner that can lift a business out of the trenches and to new heights and ultimately benefit everyone in that circle for the foreseeable future.
So I've a lot of times been saying, video is ultimately what, at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is grab attention to deliver your message in the best way possible for someone to engage with it.
Yep.
That's still the case, but what I've learned too is that video is a tool to truly help your sales team, whether it's you as the business owner or your sales team, have the confidence to close the deal.
Yep.
Because you could have the best attention grabbing videos, marketing, but if your sales team is not answering the phone and closing the deal, it means nothing.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, every business needs sales before they need marketing.
Yep.
And if you are not giving your team the confidence in the brand to close the deal, then those prospects or customers are not going to feel that confidence either.
100%. Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about is confidence, regaining a sense of confidence that is directly this is what's silly about it. It is directly correlated with an ROI on sales.
Mm.
Because when I'm confident or my sales team is confident, then we are going to kill it, and we are killing it as a result of that confidence. But it took a video, and who would have thought? And I think that's something that is missed in the work that Paper Jacket does, or in the work that media can do for a business or a business owner or a sales team, is instilling that confidence. And there's no measurable ROI other than there's an emotional shot of adrenaline that is absolutely necessary to fuel growth.
Josh, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks.
Thanks for starting this adventure with us, and continue the adventure with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to our podcast, everyone. If you're needing a high-end marketing strategy or you're looking to elevate your media, please reach out to either one of our teams. You can reach out to New York Ave at ny-ave.com or Paper Jacket at paper-jacket.com. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks.